Hi. One of the first questions my now husband Chad asked when we were getting to know each other was, "How close are you with your family?" I was suspicious. I feared he was one of those "I love my family" guys whose only goal in life was to impregnate a lady so he could play baseball with a kid in some future suburban dreamland. Those dudes creep me out. It turns out he was relieved to hear that my relationship with my family was a steaming pile of garbage because his was too. The specifics of his steaming pile are his to tell, but I have now dealt with these people enough to be astounded by the things that he had, to be astounded by the things they do and say, and to have my own stories about them. As of June, we are a family by law, though none of them were invited to our wedding, and his mother questioned the legality of it via email a couple of days after it happened. The first visit that was longer than a lunch hour was a quick Christmas Eve jaunt to San Antonio, where his tragic sister got stumbling drunk, taking selfies, and talking about her divorce as her soon-to-be ex-husband rolled his eyes nearby. And their two miserable children played with a cat that looks like an evil black ghost and bites if you get too close. I barely noticed his mother Karen that night, nor his stepfather, Paul. I mean, Paul did say "towel heads" once with a hand on my shoulder. But that's pretty forgettable when you walk in on a woman so drunk at her own Christmas gathering that she passes out cold on a love seat, her dress up around her waist, her legs wide open, snoring. Her children watched a movie in another room. I wish she hadn't had all of the wine we brought because the only movies they owned were comedies starring Ryan Reynolds, and I wasn't yet tired. Last summer, his mother and stepfather stayed with us for less than 24 hours. They planned to drive in from San Antonio one Saturday afternoon, then leave on Sunday morning, and that sounded manageable. We planned to take them to the USS Texas battleship and the San Jacinto Monument, Fox News patriots that they are, then fill them with Mexican food and hope they'd fall asleep by 8 p.m. I remained positive as we drove out to Houston's belching armpit. I sat next to Karen in the back seat. She smelled of stale cigarette smoke and dryer sheets. There were pleasantries and I was polite, but I haven't yet told you how casually racist she is. And if you're quiet for too long, she starts to just fart out horrible observations. On the topic of DeKalb, Illinois, where the family is originally from, "I like our little town. Of course, it's getting blacker, you know." On the topic of natural disasters, "Did Houston ever get rid of those Katrina people?" On homelessness, "You didn't used to see the mentally ill everywhere. They were locked up in mental institutions. But then came civil rights or whatever it was." On farmers markets, remember that farmers market we went to, Chad? We were the only people who could speak English. There were other people speaking English, Mom. Well, we were the only white people. Once on the battleship, we could separate and climb stairs and dodge wasps in the unforgiving July heat. It was more pleasant than being in a car with her. I marveled at how well-adjusted Chad is, given that he was raised by this woman with a perpetual pucker and tiny eyes that can only see a sliver of the world. Chad's eyes are large and round and receptive. He is kind and open-minded. He is the opposite of Karen. Back at our house, Karen and Paul cracked open the fresh box of pink blush Franzia that they had brought with them. They finish a box every weekend in their RV. They drink it in tall glasses with lots of ice. Karen will drink no other wine. She asks for Franzia in restaurants. They never have it. I hid in our bedroom, waiting until we had to leave for dinner. By this time, I needed margaritas to erase some of the horror of the day. As they had pre-gamed on their pink drink, the margaritas hit even their old, wasted bodies a little hard, and almost immediately, Karen was crying. "I made Chad a binder with all these photos and report cards in it. Do you still have that, Chad?" she asked. Yeah, I think so. Well, I put a lot of thought into it. I think it's in the closet in the guest room. I just can't believe you'd lose it. I am telling you that I have it. It was at this point that Karen and Paul started bickering, and Paul pointed at Karen and said, "You are the problem." But I didn't even know what they were talking about. Chad and I quietly ate chips and sucked down tequila to numb the balls bouncing in our heads. On the way back home, drunk and full, she shared this story after babbling a bit about their hometown. And then there was Shadow. We don't even know how he was conceived. His mother was retarded. He showed up at our house on Chad's wedding day wearing his bathing suit. We were getting ready for a wedding. Anyway, he went back there, you know, those pool jets. We found him pleasuring himself back there. We were having guests over later. I had to shock that pool like crazy. He still goes to every prom and graduation in high school. I tapped this all out on my phone to Facebook friends in utter disbelief. I figured it was just drunk talk, but Chad confirmed the story. The next morning, we drove through Montrose to get breakfast. We once got stuck in a gay parade. I swear I had to cover your sister's eyes. It was just disgusting, body parts everywhere. I'm fine with them doing their thing, but why do they have to be so disgusting? When Chad was a kid, I was worried about him going into men's restrooms alone. You always hear about perverts cutting off boys' penises. You never heard that, Mom. At breakfast, Chad ordered me, goes, "I've never heard people be racist about eggs." But Karen and Paul both call it Mexican eggs. His stepdad said, "Do they come with beans? I don't like those dark beans." Worn out at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning, we drove back home so they could leave. They seemed as eager to get away from us as we were to see them go. As we pulled into the driveway, Karen said one of the more positive things she'd said all weekend. "Well, I like your neighborhood. It seems safe. Not too many Mexicans. Just normal, regular people." After they left, a mere 23 hours after they'd arrived, we were wrung out and our brains were on fire. I'd been so caught off guard by everything she said, I didn't know how to fight back. I should have corrected her or told her that we didn't allow racism in our home or car or near a shared chip basket. It felt like I'd been in a surprise battle and I hadn't even tried to fight it. It was a smash and grab, a midnight attack, and I was defenseless. Chad and I held each other in the now quiet kitchen. The wreckage lay around us, windows broken, blood on the ground. "It's over," he whispered onto my shoulder. "I'm sorry."